I'm Dr. Jenna Ashton, your host for Season 2 of The Visibility Gap, a podcast presented by Cigna Healthcare. Throughout this season, we'll be tackling something vital, the women's health gap. We'll hear from real people and experts as we unpack important topics like maternal health, menopause, and heart disease. Listen in and download the new season wherever you get your podcasts.
Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together.
You can listen to and binge Jaunty Haunts right now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you podcast. Stay spooky, ghoul friends.
Have you ever been listening to a creepy ghost story or haunting history and you're like, damn, this is so enjoyable, but I wish my friends were here so we could experience it together? That's us. We're your girls, and we'll bring the snacks when you join us on I Scream, You Scream, the podcast where we serve up chilling stories with a side of our favorite ice cream.
Every month, we pick a new flavor of ice cream and a new topic to go along with it. Werewolves, poison, cemeteries, you name it. From deep dives into stories we all thought we knew to your real-world experiences, at this ice cream party, we always get to the bottom of the bowl.
Cozy up with us every Tuesday for your weekly scoop of the most chilling histories, mysteries, and paranormal perplexities. Until then, keep it cool.
And keep it creepy.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse on your favorite streaming platforms. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. And now, you can find the Red Treehouse on Patreon. Join the Red Treehouse community for as little as $3 per month and receive exclusive member benefits. Simply go to patreon.com/Red Treehouse. Important note: sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. On August 25, 2017, Sony Pictures and Netflix released Veronica, a movie dubbed as, quote, the scariest movie on Netflix, end quote. According to one comment on Reddit, the film had a 13% completion rate, which was interpreted as people being too scared to finish the movie. I saw it when it first released, and found it unnerving and unsettling. But did you know, Veronica is based on the real-life story of Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro, a teenager who may have been possessed by an evil spirit. By now, it's a well-established fact that stories of possession and exorcism scare me more than any other. The thought of your mind and body being taken over by something hostile is terrifying. And you also know there's one other thing that scares me: Ouija boards. Every so often, I'll come across a social media comment about the Ouija board being a toy that was mass-produced by Hasbro. And while this is partially true, it leaves out the origins of the board as a tool used by spiritualists to communicate with the dead. We'll explore this in an upcoming episode of the Red Treehouse. The story of Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro involves a makeshift spirit board that allegedly resulted in demonic possession, and an inexplicable tragedy and a subsequent haunting. And there's something else. Official police reports detail scary supernatural phenomena. In this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're going to explore the genuinely scary possession of Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro. Was she really possessed by a demon? Or is there a more natural explanation? I'll share the story. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. The story of Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro took place in the early 1990s in Vallecas, Spain, a working-class neighborhood less than 20 minutes from the Madrid city center. Born in 1973, she was the oldest of several siblings, and by all accounts, was an average teenager who, quote, enjoyed her adolescent years as a high school student in Madrid, end quote. In March 1990, 16-year-old Estefania was having a normal day at school when she and her friends decided to skip class and meet in a bathroom. Unbeknownst to her, the friends snuck a Ouija board into the girls' bathroom. But this was more than just teenagers being rebellious and dabbling with the spirit board. Estefania's friend had recently lost her boyfriend in a tragic motorcycle accident and was stricken with grief. Possibly motivated by a desire for comfort and closure, the friend believed the Ouija board might allow her to contact her boyfriend and find peace. What they found was something far different. A quick note. While researching, I found several articles that stated Estefania brought the Ouija board to school, and others that stated her friend brought it. And while most resources identified the spirit board as a Ouija board, at least one stated it was a makeshift, homemade spirit board. None of these details alter the story, but the differences should be noted. At some point during the seance, a teacher caught them, took the spirit board, and broke it in half. What happened next would change Estefania's life forever. When the teacher broke the board, quote, witnesses claimed that a strange smoke emerged from the broken board and was inhaled by Estefania, end quote. In the weeks following the unsuccessful seance, Estefania experienced unusual and unsettling changes, including insomnia, auditory and visual hallucinations, seizures, and increased hostility to others, including violent outbursts against family members. She claimed to hear inhuman whispers and saw shadowy figures watching her. These shadow figures had no face, wore hooded cloaks, and beckoned her to come with them. She told her parents she would sometimes see evil shadows walking past her bedroom at night. She experienced catalepsy, which is defined as, quote, a state of sustained unresponsiveness in which a fixed body posture or physical attitude is maintained over a long period of time. It is also called catatonic rigidity, end quote. For the next year, Estefania, quote, exhibited symptoms of severe mental and physical illness, end quote. During one violent episode, she attacked her younger sister, knocking her unconscious. It was said that during the attack, Estefania was foaming at the mouth, and at least one source claimed her eyes went completely white. As her health declined steadily, her family took her to different doctors and hospitals, hoping to find answers and a pathway for treatment. Except none of them could find anything physically wrong with her. As her condition worsened, her torment seemed to increase. She often screamed in terror and agony at entities only she could see. At some point, Estefania's parents discovered books related to the occult and believed, quote, these books affected Estefania, so they removed those books from her room, end quote. They reached out to a local priest, but that didn't help either. No matter what they did, Estefania's health continued deteriorating. Then, on July 13, 1991, Estefania had a seizure that put her into a coma. She died the next day and was found, quote, lifeless in her bed with no visible signs of injury or trauma, end quote. Physicians were unable to determine an official cause of death, and the autopsy report stated it was, quote, sudden and suspicious, end quote. Another quick note. Most resources stated no official cause of death was determined for Estefania. However, one article stated, quote, the official cause of death was listed as a heart attack, but the mystery surrounding her sudden decline remained unsolved, end quote. Either way, Estefania's death was tragic and mysterious. Sometime after her death, strange occurrences started in the family home. It was reported family members heard disembodied whispers calling out Mama from somewhere around her bedroom and bathroom. But when they opened the bathroom door, it was empty. Moving to the bedroom, Estefania's parents were startled to find it in complete disarray. Bedding was scattered around. Objects were tossed on the floor. Nothing was in its place. And despite their best efforts to keep the room clean and organized, they would often find it a complete mess. At different times, her parents noticed, quote, fresh scratches on the walls. These marks were the same as when Estefania was alive and started behaving weirdly and scratched the walls, end quote. Soon enough, they began hearing scratching on the walls, end quote, in eerie laughter that seemed to come from above them, end quote. The laughter soon turned into wailing, and the scratching noises escalated into banging that sounded like someone was pounding the walls with their fists. Lights flickered on and off. Appliances malfunctioned. Doors and windows opened on their own. Scared, the family closed off Estefania's bedroom, hoping to prevent anyone from going in, and anything from coming out. That night, though, they heard the disembodied whispers and creaking as her bedroom door opened on its own. According to one article, quote, "In an attempt to stop these disturbances, the family began barricading doors with furniture, including heavy pieces like sofas. However, this did little to prevent the strange occurrences. They would hear a powerful gust of wind sweep through the house as door handles turned on their own, and furniture was flung aside as though by an unseen force." End quote. In one scary incident, a door opened so forcefully that it knocked a picture of Estefania from a shelf onto the floor. When her mother picked it up, it burst into flame spontaneously. The flame only burned Estefania's face. When she was alive, Estefania claimed to have been tormented by faceless shadow figures trying to lure her towards them. After she passed away, Estefania's family claimed to have been stalked by a dark entity inside their home. One of her sisters stated, quote, "We heard a whistling sound like on other nights, and then a groan near the door. We were so scared we couldn't move. It was then that we saw something on the floor. The light from outside illuminated it. It was shaped like a man crawling towards us on all fours. It had no eyes or mouth, just a black head, and it dragged itself closer until we screamed." End quote. And it wasn't just the family who experienced these scary occurrences. In fact, several neighbors witnessed it firsthand, claiming to see strange shadows moving along the walls of the home and objects flying around a room. In 1992, a year after Estefania's death, her mother experienced something truly terrifying. She awoke one night feeling as though she were being pinned to the bed, her arms and feet being gripped tightly by unseen hands, her throat tightening, as if being strangled. She struggled and eventually was able to break free, and she immediately called the police, who arrived well after 2 a.m. Chief Inspector Jose Pedro Negri arrived with other officers and went inside the family home, thinking they were dealing with a break-in. What they found was far scarier. Quote, "They immediately encountered strange occurrences themselves. Loud noises coming from an empty porch and doors opening in unnatural ways without any apparent cause. Inside one room, they witnessed a crucifix detach itself from its cross while other objects moved inexplicably around them." End quote. While researching, I found an excerpt of the official police report. Here is the rough translation. Quote, "They found themselves in a mysterious and unusual situation. While sitting in the company of the entire family, they were able to hear and observe how a perfectly closed cupboard door, which they later closed, suddenly and completely unnaturally opened, triggering a series of serious suspicions among the spectators. Chief and the 3 officers were present. They were still in shock, and while discussing the incident, there was a strong commotion on the terrace where they could see that no one was there. So the aforementioned suspicions grew and were reinforced, taking on an unexpected interest. Moments later, they were able to notice and observe how a consistent brown stain appeared on the table where the phone was held, and specifically on a tablecloth, which 1 to 2 identified as drool." End quote. One article included an interview with Officer Negri, stating, quote, "We entered Estefania's bedroom where her father told us about how his young son had been lifted off one bed and thrown onto another by something unseen while they were sitting together. End quote. Negri went on to describe hearing blood-curdling screams coming from outside, but finding nothing when he investigated further. A short time after this, the family determined they could no longer live in the home and moved to a nearby but undisclosed location in Madrid. Once they moved, all paranormal activity stopped. The case of Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro remains one of the rare instances where law enforcement officially documented paranormal activity in a police report. And to this day, over 30 years later, it remains one of the most chilling paranormal stories in Spain's history, and is often referred to as the Vallecas case. But it leaves us with an obvious question. Is it true? Despite the police reports corroborating the scary phenomena, there are plenty of skeptics who believe something else was going on with Estefania and her family. There are some who believe she suffered from an undiagnosed neurological or psychological disorder, despite medical professionals' lack of findings. By all accounts, her parents sought help and answers for her strange behavior and decline in health. Something interesting, and not insignificant, Estefania suffered from epileptic seizures, a condition she may have inherited from her mother, who also suffered from the condition. Skeptics point to this as the possible cause of Estefania's illness and subsequent death, though it leaves an unsettling question hanging in the air. Why weren't doctors able to find evidence of this? There are others who dismiss the claims of paranormal occurrences as nothing more than fabricated or embellished stories. One article stated, quote, "It is inappropriate to speak of paranormal phenomena. Everything that happened was psychological. Their mother was obsessed with the idea that something inexplicable was happening around Estefania and ended up influencing the rest of the family. Concepcion forced her children to lie consciously about what was happening at home. The fear they felt at that time was caused, more than by the phenomena, by Concepcion, who would retaliate if they did not say what she wanted." End quote. Others refute the claim that Estefania was obsessed with the occult, and outright deny she was possessed by an evil spirit. They point to her cheery disposition and temperament as proof that she was not dabbling in the dark realms. But it still leaves us with an obvious and unanswered question. If the paranormal activity was fabricated, what should we make of the official police report, which independently corroborated the Lazaro's claims? Skeptics believe the entire incident was planned and enacted by Estefania's mother. Except here's the thing. After the initial visit to the home, police conducted a thorough investigation, and Inspector Negri's report was officially stamped and filed. And perhaps as important, in the ensuing years, he has confirmed his report in the media and in legal testimony. And while he didn't establish a cause for the scary phenomena, and didn't suggest it was paranormal, he has stood by his observations and testimony. It's possible, even likely, that we may never know the why behind Estefania's death and the Lazaro family haunting. I'll admit, this case leaves me baffled and unnerved. We've explored almost a dozen stories of alleged demonic possession, but this one frightens me more than the others. And I think it's because there are infinitely more questions than answers. Is it possible the whole case was embellished and fabricated? Sure, Human beings are enigmatic and unusual, so it's plausible this story is just that, a story. But there are too many important unanswered questions that leave the door to the supernatural more than a little cracked. I'll admit something else. This case was difficult to research. There were dates, timelines, and details that were at times contradictory. For me at least, that reveals two things. Human memory is fickle and unreliable, and the story of Estefania's possession and the Lazaro family haunting may in fact be true. Because even the varying details and seeming contradictions all point in the same direction. No matter what, the cries of conspiracy still run into the brick wall of the official police report. It's one thing to make up a story, embellish it, and propagate it as truth. It's another thing entirely to convince multiple police officers to do the same, and to have them file it in the official record, and to stick to the story while under legal oath. At some point, you'd expect someone to crack, out the lie, and spill the truth. But that hasn't happened in the nearly 35 years since Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro passed away. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with these lingering questions. Was Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro really possessed by a demon? Or is there a more natural explanation? I've shared the story. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.